the character. His name is Pi, and he's in India. And in India, his parents own a zoo, and they're good people. You can tell they're good people. His name Pi, though, comes from almost a signifier of a kind of spinelessness, is in that he peed himself, and the bullies called him, well, a seeming spinelessness. That's actually what I want to say, a seeming spinelessness, a lack of overt assertion. And so he peed himself, and the bullies called him Pisser. But he did do something powerful. He reclaimed the name and just made it Pi. And remember, pi is circumference, which is great. So he's at the zoo, and there's a beauty to him, a naivete, an innocence almost. And he has fallen for religion, but he's religiously non-monogamous. Mm-hmm. And he's fallen for 3 separate religions, including Catholicism, Hinduism. I forget the third. And he practices them with rigor and care. And his mom isn't thrilled about this. His mom says, or you could go without religion altogether. And he doesn't, he won't. And his father is worried about him because he goes to the tiger cage often, and he's a little bit too close to the tiger. And so the father assumes that closeness has to do with a dangerous naivete. And so the father takes it upon himself to bring a goat into the tiger's cage and have his son witness the Bengal tiger doing what Bengal tigers do, and eats the goat in front of him, so that he has this warning about Bengal tigers. Now, the tiger's name in this story is Richard Parker, right? Is it? Richard? Oh, yeah. Richard Parker. And now here's the thing about Richard Parker's name. It's due to a mix-up in paperwork. See, Richard Parker was actually the captor of the Bengal tiger. But they decide, okay, we'll just keep the name. What the heck? So Richard Parker is this tiger. Well, there is upheaval in India. And so the family decides they have to go to Canada. Canada seems to be the land of enlightenment, but they decide they have to go to Canada, and they put all of the animals on the boat. And then what happens? A storm. We know this storm. So the storm happens, and 2 deckhands throw him off the boat. There's a lifeboat, and he lands in the lifeboat. He lands in the lifeboat with, and this is actually sweet, an orange orangutan named Orange Juice, and a zebra and a hyena. So the hyena, it does what hyenas do, and eats the zebra right in front of Pi's eyes. And then after a formidable fight, the hyena also takes out the orangutan. So now it's just the hyena and Pi on this little boat together, after the hyena has just killed the other 2. The hyena does what hyenas do and starts coming toward him. And wouldn't you know it, Richard Parker has stowed away on the boat and comes out and protects Pi and eats the hyena, which is great. That's amazing, right? Except for now, Richard Parker and Pi are cast out at sea. They're alone together, and it's pretty clear also what this Bengal tiger can do. So they're out at sea, and it strikes Pi that they're going to get thirsty. And so he's going through, he's panicked, and all of a sudden he realizes, oh, there's a box, and in the box there are provisions. Box, it's hidden. It's a hidden box that you wouldn't find unless you were cast out at sea. And he opens it, and in that box of provisions, some water, a water purifier, biscuits, a whistle, and a manual. Okay, so he's going through some difficulties. So with this tiger, and the first thing he tries to do is control the tiger. Tries to assert a kind of dominance, which we can imagine wouldn't go well, but we don't imagine that because we all do it anyway. So he tries to assert dominance over the tiger. Well, that doesn't work. So then he kind of asserts a kind of submission. Well, that doesn't work either. So then what he realizes is he has the goods. He has the goods that the tiger needs. So he learns to use basically positive reinforcement and punishment. He has the water and the food when the tiger is acting according to good tiger behavior. He gives him a reward. But the tiger also gets seasick. So he learns that when the tiger is being unruly, he rocks the boat to curb the behavior of the tiger. This is good and important. So the next thing that happens is, I think it's the next thing. One of these two things happens next, and that's that Pi goes blind and kind of loses his mind, as any of us might if we're stuck out at sea and the sun is in our eyes. And so he's blind now to the world of appearances. What happens is that suddenly he can hear Richard Parker. You can hear him. They can be in communication in a way that they couldn't before. So they both start imagining what they'll eat when they get to an island, or when they land. And of course, virtuous Pi is imagining that he will eat vegetarian food. And of course, the tiger is imagining he'll eat a lot of meat. So Pi has some judgment about this initially. And then it strikes him, oh, wait, this is my language for it. Oh, wait, that's what that constitution needs. And that's that constitution's preference. And that's okay. And he finds a sort of ease with that. The next thing that happens is that suddenly, because of course, a Frenchman gets on the boat. We're out at sea. And Pi experiences tremendous relief at this Frenchman showing up, because now he has a real companion. He's been stuck with this kind of violent tiger, and now he has a friend. He has a friend, something that's more familiar, something that's more like himself. Except for the Frenchman got on the boat to kill him and eat him. Wouldn't you know it, who saves him? Richard Parker. Richard Parker, the tiger, saves him. Great. They find an island, they land on the island. This is fantastic. They get out, what relief. Oh, thank goodness. Joy. Except for there's this piece of fruit. And they look at the fruit. There's a human tooth in this fruit. They have landed on the island of carnivorous plants. They hightail it out of there. They get back in the boat. Some more things happen. And then finally they make it to Mexico. And they land in Mexico, and the Japanese Ministry of Transport is there to greet them. And he's preparing to tell his story. And then what happens is Richard Parker begins to walk off into the jungle. And he just keeps walking. And this has been his companion, his adversary. This has been everything, his entire focus this entire time. And he just takes off. And in that moment, you sense a kind of grief inside of Pi that you wouldn't expect because he's been wrestling with him. And then the Japanese ministry starts questioning him about what happened. And he tells him the story. There was this orange orangutan, there was this zebra and this hyena and this Bengal tiger, and these things happened. And then we find out later, the Japanese ministry doesn't exactly believe that story. So then he says, oh, the orangutan was my mother. I think it's the zebra was the cook, and the hyena, or maybe one of these. The zebra was a cook, the hyena was the sailor. And Richard Parker was me. Parker was me. And he had done the killing, both to protect his mother, then to protect his own life. And then what's so cool is you leave the story and you don't know which version is true, the animal or the human version. So we have just the classic analysis of the story. I think it's a brief one, right? The classic analysis of the story. And then I'm going to do mine for purposes of Eros.
Martel has said that Life of Pi can be summarized in 3 statements. Life is a story. You can choose your story. A story with God is the better story. Reviewer Gordon Hauser suggests that there are 2 main themes of the book, that all of life is interdependent and that we live and breathe via belief.
Isn't that nice? We live and breathe via belief, and that all life is interdependent. And it's funny because the first person she spoke of, that's the author of the book. That's just such a mediocre description of what, I mean, you can just, the messages that you can get from that story. So I wrote ours, the portion about the storm in the boat, okay? So there comes a point where we meet what we can't control. And this is especially true of, a spiritual journey, a journey that's worth its weight will bring you to what would you call that?
Your knees?
Yes. Your knees while in quicksand. And you'll meet your Richard Parker, right? So and that can be anything. And it's again, one thing that I do is I only say the same 10 things. I just say them differently. And that is that last week I did it by talking about Jesus. Did I use this? I love how Changbal says Jesus. He says Jesus. It's a Korean way. But what I said was, everyone views him being on the cross as the defeat, and in my estimation, he had done such a great job that he got put on the cross and got the reward of being brought to the underworld, where he battled with Richard Parker. Or whatever he battled with, Persephone, and then is brought up into a place of anonymity to tend to, and you're dropping stuff off down there. But our culture, and I don't know if it's good or bad, because I'm a non-dualist, but as a joke. See, thanks. Some people get it, some people don't. But this mischaracterization of the process of being brought down as something shameful rather than a signifier of the proof that you're ready to be forged for something greater, I think has done a tremendous amount of harm. You know, when my original teacher, Erin, the reason why I wear this color, because I only wear two colors basically, she said it would cause other people, my heart was closed. And she said it would have other people's hearts open, and then my heart would open in response. So we're working on it. But so, I met her at the end of the train. I met her at the end of the station, although she managed to make that station go on longer. But I was, I had hit bottom. I hit bottom when I met her, and bottom that was just the beginning of a lot of bottoms. But so I met her, and she was the end of the line. And then I was so grateful that I met somebody who was at the end of the line and who knew how to transform that position into a dignified spiritual journey, because that's what you lack at the bottom. I don't know about you, but dignity is very important. And so I boldly, and this is, don't do this. Don't have a big mouth. Don't. Because I said, oh, I want to do that or be that for other people. And you don't realize that people who are at the end of the line are usually there for a reason, because they proved a little too challenging for the other subway stops. And so, we all come in sort of discombobulated. So anyway, okay, so there's that. So the storm comes, and the storm can be in the form of, it's my usual white bull poem, of the bull coming in. That's actually the libido that takes out your life. And it can be sickness, it can be addiction, it can be somebody dying, it can be just a moment of this shit isn't working. I don't know if I could cuss, but I did. It just, one of those where you've just been on the merry-go-round too long. It can be, there are a list of cultural things that bring us to our knees. And hopefully, Leonard Cohen talks about those who are blessed don't stand up again. They don't go back to putting the old life back together that brought you to your knees in the first place. So, and are cast out of life to contend with themselves. And that's the part that of the journey that doesn't get the dignity that I think it deserves. It's you disgraced mogul. No, it's higher practice bodhisattva learning to contend with their own inner tiger. So, and there's aid and provisions, but the aid is for us to employ. That's really important to understand. He gets the provisions and, the water to quench the basic thirst. So tanha in Buddhism means thirst. It's translated often as greed, right? And so you get enough water for sustenance, but not to fulfill the greed impulse. Okay? Because that's what you're wrestling with, is greed, hatred, and delusion. I'll just give you the story. And then he gets the water purifier, right? And so you get the lessons in terms of how to purify your karma. Then he gets biscuits, enough food, and it's also important that he shares that with Richard Parker. He shares it with a part of himself that he wants to cut off. Then there's the whistle is what we think will have us able to control others. It did not work on Richard Parker. Or to blow the whistle, and that doesn't work. And then he gets the manual. And the manual is the signifier of everyone who's gone before. And that is available all of the lessons of that are available for you to implement, not for them to do it for you. Because he's out there on the Sealam. So the part of the story where he retells that he's the one who did the killing. And the demons, we have this ridiculous, the nature of the journey is drawing back projections. So all of that, just, spoiler alert, this is a mirror. Those idiots are you. So you do well to love them. And those it's just an endless hall of mirrors. So the demons, we have this idea that there are demons and that Richard Parker is this dangerous demon, and then whoa, it turns out to be him. And so there's a calling back in, and the demons or tigers aren't out there, they're in here. And that you're going to see them out there until you finally pull them in here and learn to wrestle with them in order to harness that power so that they can be your greatest ally. The tiger, once we've learned our lessons, leaves in the form of what tortured us. And then it is what we are most grateful for. That part is so poignant in this story where he's just, and he's just tearing his hair out in the boat. He wants it to go away, and he hates it, and he's tortured by it. He's trying to dominate it, and then though, once he's learned all the lessons it was there to bring him, it leaves him in peace with the lessons. And the poignancy is that he then misses it. And there's a deep-seated gratitude for everything that it's done for you. I like the relationship with the tiger is that it will not be domesticated, but it can be, but it can't be directed with naivete or dominance. There's a relationship that you have to develop with it for it to bring you what you need. And the longer you resist it, this is what I try to tell people. The Buddha said, the biggest mistake people make is thinking they have time. And so I try to say, you can't beat this one. You just can't. You can't beat this one. So then surrender and see what it wants to bring you. Because the other part of the White Bull poem is, brings you gifts from the sea. It wants to bring you the secret and mysterious gifts in order to have the deeper powers that you need in order to become who we're meant to be. He faces, and I like this. He faces danger with both the ministry officials and with the tiger. I mean, he killed people. He could, be in some big trouble, right? And he gets off both with the tiger and the ministry because he used his tiger for greater good. Right. And the tiger protected him when he most needed it because he had been loving to the tiger. Then with the Frenchman, this is a good one. Remember this one. It's important. The ones you think are the allies, the ones you think are your allies. By the way, this is just a story of somebody's ego, basically. What's comfortable and familiar is the danger you must subdue. So all of those things that we think we need in order to be comfortable, in order to have our security, those are the things that are actually trying to kill you. And the deeper thing that you view as the most dangerous is going to be the thing if it's given the stage to save you. So what you're killing off is hyper-independence and hyper-dependence. And those two things tend to be what you're working with as you're making your way to the next place of interdependence. Remember, he said that's the purpose of the story, is the story of interdependence. Going blind, when you leave the world of appearances, you hit what's called rigpa, which is known as one taste. where all are doing according to their constitution, that nothing is innately good or bad, that each thing is good or bad with respect to its purpose. So the tiger killing the hyena, that was fantastic for its purpose of saving Pi. And Pi, I think I'll have this in a minute. Pi in this story is basically the Dharma. Pi is representing the truth in some way, but us knowing the truth without the tiger, well harnessed for purposes of greater good. It has to be that the tiger is serving not the self, because it'll destroy you, but is serving the greater good. Is that pretty? And then the carnivorous island. So don't get out midway. Don't get out midway. But your lessons will eat you alive, especially with hyper independent people who who want to get just enough lessons to get back to work kind of thing and do their thing. Then don't do that, because there comes a point when you think you've learned enough, but unless you get to the point of true interdependence, that's how you'll know that you made it to Mexico in the Life of Pi story. Those things will destroy you. So so twice Richard Parker saved Pi's life. Remember that Pi was kind to Richard Parker. You have prodigious gifts, but they must be used in service to you. The wild and untamed part of Pi, Richard Parker, is used in service to protecting the Dharma.